Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective as we await the decision from the Supreme Court regarding the famous Roe v. Wade decision, or infamous in the eyes of some. We're going to be talking about what it all means on a surface level as well as on a deeper level. I'm here. It's the Thursday Collective. And as we roll out, introduce our co-host, please leave a like, make sure you're subscribed, hit that join button, and super chat your thoughts and opinions while we still can. We have somebody today. She's a scientist turned podcaster, a woman of many thoughts and opinions, and actually has given birth herself in her life. So I think her opinion is worth hearing out on this. Please welcome Amanda Maxham.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Welcome to me and my uterus.
And we've got a guy who famously debated the issue of abortion with a guy named Zuby, who Zuby asked him, are you a dad? He said, yeah.
No. All right, go ahead.
To which he answered, yes, I am. And Zuby said, I'm surprised that a dad could be okay with abortion, killing a baby. And to which he answered, well, I'm a stepdad. Please welcome Mark Pellegrino.
I am never going to live that down. Did that really happen, or are you just making this up?
Okay, and if I hadn't noted it and brought it up, it would have fallen through the cracks of history, and
it would have gone into the ether. Nobody would have remembered it, and now it'll be a meme online. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. So we're awaiting the decision from the Supreme Court. I mean, people say like, okay, let it go, let it die. I mean, that's the problem. We can't let it die. They keep on reviving this issue. So let me ask you all a deep question, a thoughtful question. When did abortion actually become like a hot topic issue for conservatives? Because I sort of have my understanding of when that was, and it was sort of around the 1970s. So interestingly, kind of coinciding with the sexual revolution, which makes you wonder, is it about aborting feti, or is it about wanting sex to have more of a consequence? There's quite a loaded question.
Well, I think Christian ethics started entering politics explicitly in the late 60s for sure, and then conservatives adopted Christian ethics as a part of their moral platform. I think really in the 80s. I think with Ronald Reagan and the moral majority, if you remember. I don't think you remember, Rucka. You might have been too young, or were you alive? Were you alive?
I was born during his final term.
Okay, so so the moral majority became a real political force, and conservative values, social values like abortion, came to the forefront for real. It probably did become an issue once the left, I guess, liberated women in this respect, and it sort of compelled the right to react in the way that they did. But it was certainly. I think those old values had sway for many years. They were just an undercurrent, right? And many states banned abortions, and women were quite unsafe if they tried to get the procedure done anywhere. So, I would say it came to the forefront in the early 80s, really hard.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it said that there was a point in the 20th century when a lot of conservatives, religious even, they were for abortion as a means to plan families and not to have kids out of wedlock. So they certainly early term abortion, and certain sects of Christianity, obviously not all. I'm guessing the Catholics always were uncomfortable with abortion. But even there, I learned from watching Yaron Brook interview Ben Bayer that there was a point in time when the Catholics only began calling it murder once the fetus was kicking. Like before the fetus was a fetus, like before it resembled somewhat a human being, it was just considered defying God's wish, right? So don't get an early term abortion, they said, because God wishes for this, conception to be carried out. And who are you to say no? But they didn't quite call it murdering a person at that point. So
yeah, you may be right. It's certainly evolved over the years.
Interesting. So, now, Amanda, I mean, isn't abortion kind of an uncomfortable topic? Ayn Rand famously lectured on the rights of hardcore pornographers, defending their free speech, also with the Supreme Court ruling at a Ford Hall Forum lecture. And Rand said, it's not very inspiring to fight for the rights of, hardcore pornographers, but nonetheless, it's important, paraphrasing there. So I would imagine fighting for abortion is not highly inspiring, right? I mean, who wants to terminate a pregnancy, right? Babies are beautiful. Pregnancy is a wonderful experience. Nobody actually wants to see an abortion. So what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a topic that is, it's hard. Like, I don't even really want to talk about it, quite honestly. I was thinking about, I really want to be on the show today, even because it's yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it it's something that you decide to do. I ultimately think it is a really good and healthy, positive decision. And it is like a really life affirming decision, but it's often in the context of there's been a mistake, something has happened that I, didn't intend. Sometimes it can be some sort of medical problem. Maybe you've discovered the baby has Down syndrome or something that you don't, some reason you don't want to bring it to term, but you had some other hopes and dreams and expectations pinned to it. So it's often in that context. I don't, yeah, and I always thought like, well, should we really think of it that way? Maybe it is something that we should celebrate because it is something that's positive in people's lives, and the right to do it is certainly positive. But yeah, maybe I'm a little more cynical and sad about it now.
I think it is a celebration of life. It's a celebration of the life that exists right now. It's a celebration of our capacity to take control over our lives and not be beholden to biology, environment, economics, everything that is in our environment is for the most part within our control. We can have mastery, and I think something like that demonstrates that we can have mastery over our environment. We're not stuck, and that's an important place. That's an important thing for women to know, for human beings to know. You're not stuck.
Yeah. So Amanda, I actually thought you might push back and say, no, you know what? Abortion is something to celebrate, because when you don't want that baby, or when it's unhealthy to have this baby or whatever reason, then thank God for that technology. But
yeah, for sure.
I guess we sort of met halfway on that.
I mean, I do think that rationally, but I also know that like for a woman that's had an abortion, it's the best day of your life, but also the worst day of your life in another way, where it's, yeah, now I get to go on and do the thing, like you said, Mark said, take control of my life and, fulfill it in the way that I want. Maybe it's, I want to go to college, or I don't know, I just make a different choice. I don't want to have this type of baby that I was going to have, but it's also, it's horrible because it is emotional, and it is, I mean, it's a medical procedure. It's not like a pleasant thing either in that regard. So yeah, it's like this mixture of things, ultimately positive, but very emotional.
If abortion really is murder, wouldn't conservatives and religious people, especially who really see this as a murderous act, wouldn't they give out birth control, encourage birth control like crazy? Wouldn't they say, look, we're not crazy about you all having sex for fun, but if you're going to do it, please prevent conception, because we really don't want to see an accidental pregnancy, which could result in, among other things, an abortion. So you would think that would be a serious priority of theirs, but obviously we've seen mostly the opposite. You would think the morning after pill would also be promoted, but instead it's been largely mischaracterized as an abortion pill, but it's not. It actually prevents conception in advance. And furthermore, yeah, I guess I'll stop it there. What do you guys think about the religious and the anti-abortionist relationship with contraceptions?
Well, I always thought like the Pope Mobile, isn't that the whole purpose of it? That he drives down the street and like throws condoms out of the windows?
Is that a real thing, or are you joking? Oh, you're kidding. Okay, yeah.
No, I think
wouldn't surprise me with this Pope, but yeah.
I think religious people have a different value set. They don't value the material world to the extent that somebody like us does. They think that you are bound to duties, qua duties, because they are duties. Your life is sort of a sacrificial element to these duties that you have to pursue. The context of your life makes no difference. And sex has a biological purpose, a religious purpose, which is the procreation and the raising of a family, the perpetuation of the human race, not simple enjoyment, not just pleasure. I think they scoff at those kinds of values, and they scoff at sex as simply being pleasure. They consider that to be, I think, superficial. So their answer is to make sex bound up in these larger human familial duties that I think it is why they don't promote birth control, because it's not about joy, it's not about happiness, it's not about love or sharing, it's about procreation.
Now, many people would answer you, and many anti-abortionists, people who want to see Roe v. Wade overturned, they would answer you and they would say, hey, I enjoy sex. I have it all the time. I'm not opposed to sex, but I think abortion is murder. I think life begins at conception. What if somebody said that?
Well, life might begin at conception in a biological sense, but to me, that's not really the question. Life doesn't confer rights. A particular kind of life confers rights. And so rights begin at a very specific time, as far as I'm concerned. Whether or not you could consider, a cells dividing alive in the human sense, or even a fetus coming to full term alive in anything but the most basic biological sense, it still does not confer a right.
So so my question is also kind of, it's addressed to like the way we cast motivations on the anti-abortionists. So we say like they're like jealous, or they disapprove of sex for pleasure, and to which many people would answer, include many people in America today and in the modern world, they would say, look, I have premarital sex, I enjoy sex, I just don't think abortion should be legal. So I mean, the way I've been thinking of it is like, I think a lot of the people who do the heavy lifting on this issue, a lot of the people who sort of, who are in the intellectual leaders of the anti-abortion stance are in fact disapproving of the sex itself. A lot of them are in fact celibate or just very conservative in their sex lives. And as a result, many kind of ordinary people have adopted anti-abortion views, whereas when they could have been exposed to better ideas and been more, pro-abortion. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, because the leaders of the group, they're all, I don't know, they live up in a castle in the Vatican and they never have sex because they wear like long robes and stuff. I mean, I guess there is a difference between the leaders of a like a thought leader versus, like an average person who kind of picks up this or that and says, well, yeah, maybe it's not 100% right, but yeah, I'd like to move in with my girlfriend and that's okay, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a big difference between those two people, those two people, who's pushing the ideas and who's just adopting them.
Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between the intellectuals that are promoting this stuff and the people on the ground who more or less buy the concept that abortion is wrong, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, and so also the way we have this culture war today, and this has been going on for a while. Certain issues are bundled together. So like being anti-abortion, let's say, immigration, thinking that the 2020 election was stolen, and distrusting the COVID vaccine, or let's say I'll go with one tribe, along with some other valid concerns, like let's say they're for gun rights, and let's say they're for like relatively free markets, let's say, although that's even kind of a thing of the past in both tribes. And then on the other tribe, you have, let's say, abortion rights. They uphold abortion rights, but also they're for the welfare state, and they want to see language policed, and on the pronoun level and all these things. So the way these issues are bundled together makes it it requires a very independent type of person to say, I support abortion rights, but I disagree with the left and with the Democrats on a lot of these other issues. It takes a certain degree of independence. And a lot of people just don't seem to have that, or they don't focus enough on politics with a critical mind, with critical thinking, to separate these issues and to really think about them. So
yeah, and I think it's a really hard concept to get people in the grassroots to understand the difference between actuals and potentials for just a person using, I think, the common sense. It's a human from conception, because it's got the DNA, it's got the biological equipment to develop into something. And the idea that it's a potential human being, not an actual human being, really doesn't sit well with them. For them, it is an independent individual, because it has a separate DNA, a separate biological identity, and it's hard to convince them that because it's a biological dependency on the mother, it's a part of her, and rights don't belong to parts of people, but to individuals. Those are hard distinctions for people to make in the everyday world.
A zero-sum view of things has pervaded through most of history. So other than Ayn Rand, it seems like most prominent thinkers, they see like a zero sum as being kind of like the state of things. So I see it everywhere. Like they sort of even like obsession with the troops sacrificing for us overseas, right? Like we couldn't be free, but for their constant sacrifice and suffering and pain and death. Or that this view that capitalism only works here in the West as long as the third world is being oppressed and miserable. So like this constant zero sum view of things, I think, is everywhere. And we see it with abortion, where like, oh, sure, a woman could plan a good life and have a good life, but that comes in conflict with this, this other life, which is the fetus. Kind of like they need it. They want to believe, it seems, that that her pursuit of happiness comes at the expense of the child that might be. And it's like they just don't want to live in a world where the conflicts of people where the interests of rational people don't conflict, as Rand, I think, put it. So that's something I've been thinking about. We got some super chats. Mary Aline, thank you for that. Jonathan with $4.99 says, an unborn cell isn't a child and has no rights. But if a woman who is carrying an unborn child is killed, should the murderer be charged with 2 killings?
They often are.
They often
I
are.
like watch true crime a lot, and you're often charged. Well, it's more than just a murder if you murder a pregnant woman. Yeah. Especially if it's obvious. If you don't know, then I don't know that it makes a difference, but it's clear that she's pregnant. You can be charged with extra homicide or something worse.
And the question is, should that be the case? And I think arguably so. If she wants this pregnancy, if she wants to carry this fetus to term, then like in virtue of that, it becomes, this life within her becomes valuable, and like valuable to her, and like to kill her along with her, along with killing her unborn fetus, can be seen as more than one murder. Maybe not.
I think you're right now, but now this is also crazy territory to get into, because it sort of defies natural right, the phenomenon of natural right, which is you're sort of endowed intrinsically, well, not necessarily intrinsically, but you have these rights that are inseparable from your nature. And what you imply in this respect is that the woman, by virtue of the fact that she values this living being, endows it with the right to life by virtue of the fact that she wants it. Now, I would sort of agree with that with respect to my animals, right? I don't think dogs or cats have a quote unquote right to life in any sense that I understand it, but I certainly treat them as if they do. Right. And so maybe you're right. It's the endowment with her desire to carry this child to term that vests its value. But then how do you discuss rights as inviolable with respect to our natures, while at the same time positing this idea that they're sort of bestowed from the outside? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess the difference between the Lockean sort of natural rights versus Ayn Rand's conception of rights is worth investigating. So anyone who hasn't read Ayn Rand's essay, Man's Rights, definitely Google it. And I think it's free to read from the Ayn Rand Institute. So I guess the fact that she wants this pregnancy, the fact that she values this and intends to carry the pregnancy to term means that to kill her along with this fetus is violating her right more than just murdering. It's like it's 150% or something like that. It's like, it's more so violating her rights, I guess it would be seen as.
Yeah, it's I don't know that it's necessary that she values it or not. That's probably not the important thing. It's that it's hers. Like, it's not, it doesn't belong to anybody else. It's not like it doesn't make a difference if the murderer kills, also there's cases of this too, where the mother doesn't die, but they, like, crazy people come and like cut a baby out of a pregnant woman's belly, and like that happens too. It's like, if you can think of any crazy situation, somebody has done it. But I think it's that, like what Mark was saying, it's with your dogs. It belongs to me. It's my thing, and it's a special thing because it's alive. And so it's this sort of different category of thing where if you kill it, that's different, than if you destroy, I don't know,
like something that can be replaced. Yeah,
it can't be replaced, and it's not your decision to make. It's my thing, and it's a very special thing.
Yeah. I guess the question is like, is if she wants to get an abortion, then before she gets that abortion, is hurting her, is killing her, or is it like, should you be charged with 2 counts of homicide or more than 1 count of homicide? Should you be charged with something extra by if you kill a woman who is also pregnant but planning to abort? Anyway, maybe some of these questions just need to be answered by legal philosophers, and but we know the basic, the basic outline of the basic criteria. Jonathan Honig, super chats. He goes, shouldn't having abortions be encouraged with people who don't want to be parents and don't want to raise children? What's the problemo? Well, I guess people would say because that protoplasm or that fetus is a person. So,
but I think where we get into some, difficult territory is that, an organization like Planned Parenthood, which claims that only a portion of the proceeds that it takes from taxpayers goes to abortion. It's not entirely true, since all of those services in one way or another often lead to abortion. The fact that people who disagree fundamentally with this practice, find it morally abhorrent, are taxed and forced to subsidize it, I think is very evil. So once again, when the left gets something right, its practice of it is wrong.
Interesting. So let's say Obamacare was passed or whatever, or just various types of the welfareization of medicine where everyone's paying for everything. And then religious people say, look, it's bad enough you're making us pay for each other's medical stuff, but you're actually forcing us now to pay for abortions, which are unconscionable to us. Now, I think an argument can be, but hey, look, as long as we're going to have a welfare state, as long as we're all paying for each other's stuff, why should religious people have their mystical views treated any differently? Maybe I don't believe in tooth fillings and I don't want to pay for your dental care. Like, for instance, like why should the religious person's beliefs be treated any differently? I guess
this is the evil of the welfare state, is that you cannot tell who is the victim, and everybody becomes some sort of half victim in every sort of sense possible. I may think it's great or it's good. It should be a woman's right to have an abortion, but I don't want to have to force some poor, conservative to have to pay for it. That's not right. But somehow if I support the issue, I'm behind that. And they're a victim too now of the whole scheme. It's horrible.
I mean, I'm sure there's religious people who make matters of conscience superficial things like tooth fillings and stuff, or certain types of medical care. But for the most part, matters of conscience are about life and death phenomenon, right? Should a person go off to fight a war? There are some people who conscientiously object to the act of war, whether even if we would consider it a just war, a war of self-defense. There are people who object to the act of killing, period. Now, should they be forced to go against their conscience? No, your conscience, your sensibility about what's right and wrong, and your capacity for choice are what fundamentally make you human. And you're robbing somebody of that fundamental humanness by overriding their judgment and substituting with your own. There's nothing more disgusting, in my view, than that. I despise that. Right? That's slave master mentality. And that should have gone out centuries ago, but it's in fashion still.
The military draft is analogous to socialized medicine. And in both cases, there should be no force. So the military should always be volunteer only. And if we do have a draft, then should we then let some people off the hook because of their religious beliefs? So I'm not entirely sure. It's nice to say, yeah, you don't have to fight because you're Jehovah Amish or whatever. But then, am I then running out into the front lines to protect your little butter churning lifestyle?
I think you should be a conscientious objector and not go at all. I think the people who ran away to Canada during the Vietnam War were actually the brave ones, because they were leaving behind. Sorry to say this, I know I'm going to get a lot of shit from it, but from conservatives out there, but they left behind families and futures and the possibility of ever coming back to America in protest of a fundamental human right, which is your freedom to direct your life as you see fit. The state does not own you. It can't send you off to a jungle 15,000 miles away to die for a cause you do not believe in. That is anti-life, anti-human, anti-rational.
Yeah, the more I learn about the Vietnam era, the more it seems like just like the climax of how topsy-turvy society and life could get. And to think that we're 70 or some years past that and still dealing with the same ridiculousness and incoherence is pretty disheartening. Marilyn with $5 says, the issue is, are sex, pleasure, and happiness good? Is the woman's life important? Christians act like sex isn't quite right. There's a price to pay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's certainly not for enjoyment. I mean, it's, and certainly, I mean, I think St. Paul said it best. I mean, for him, marriage was an institution that protected you from committing the sin of fornication, so you could have sex legitimately. But I mean, what a worldview that is. And that's not to say that there aren't very lusty religious people out there that enjoy sex. There is, but the philosophical concept of Christianity is anti-material, anti-sexuality, anti-body, anti-self-fulfillment and joy. Yeah, man, I think abortion is I don't think we should call it that, since I think we should embrace the pro-life movement, because we're embracing life for the actual person who exists. And we're saying her choice is always primary.
Yeah, they treat us like cattle, I think is what Ayn Rand pointed out, the anti-abortionists. They treat us like barnyard animals.
See, and that's what we're caught between. We're caught between two tribes who treat us like barnyard animals for different reasons, right? The right treats us like barnyard animals who are all bound to each other in certain social duties, and the left does the same thing, just with our material well-being.
Absolutely. And this whole question of like the price to pay for sex actually reminds me of the Ali G show. You guys used to watch that back in the day? I think he was interviewing like Newt Gingrich or someone, and he goes like, do you think men should be forced to pay for their kids? And he goes, yes, of course. He goes, but what if he already paid for like the movie, the popcorn, the dinner, and now he's finally getting a little jiggy and he's thinking, what is this going to cost me? It makes the whole thing kind of unromantic, isn't it? So I guess that's something to think about.
I think I saw that one. How did Newt Gingrich not know he was being interviewed by Sasha?
I mean, basically, a politician's job is just to just say yes and nod, and I don't know. It's like, I guess who knows?
I mean, this is why like birth control is one of the very best human inventions ever, because now it's like all those questions of, you know, if I have sex and I could get pregnant and there's no way out of it, I don't have a certain control over my biological function in the way that I do if I have birth control. That's amazing. Like that is, I mean, just think about the freedom involved with that.
It is amazing. And you know what? I mean, what we get on the left is fear of overpopulation and their attempts to socially organize us in such a way as to not deplete resources and to diminish our population and enjoyment of life. And on the right, we have this new thing now where they're saying fecundity is low, right? The population we're on the verge of a population collapse, because for a few decades now, people have gone under the 2.1 children they're supposed to have in order to keep the earth populated. And they're as if this is going to mean a complete collapse of civilization. As if the whole the whole period of productive capitalism has meant nothing, right? The invention of labor saving devices that makes one individual as productive as 1,000 or 5,000. It's as if none of that means anything. Now they're interested in trying to assert some form of population growth programs. And those are the people that we're caught in the middle of. These folks with anti-individualist agendas that want to manipulate us individuals to realize whatever their ideal is. Small population, big, you know what I mean? It's gross. It's time to let the individual flourish.
People definitely turn it into a utilitarian argument. You know, is it good to have this many abortions, or what type of people does it create in society, or whatever? And the actual question should be, if an individual person wants to be rational and pursue the good life, what are the suitable laws in place to protect that? That should be the question. And then the question is not how to maximize the right type of behavior that'll benefit society in one way or another. So that's how I would look at that. Jonathan with $4.99 says, should abortion be permitted or encouraged on Super Chat or even Kickstarter?
Wait, what? You mean like a Kickstarter to get an abortion?
I would,
like somebody who does a GoFundMe, somebody if they can't afford it.
If I owned the website, I would say yes. So
yeah,
I would. I mean,
so that they're taking money from people who want to give it to them and who are supporting what they do. That's a far cry from what happens with Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm. Marilyn with $2 says the price of sex can be an unwanted child, and a shocked emoji. Robin Heron has become a member.
Yay! Welcome.
Hey, Robin.
Jonathan Honig with $4.99 says, I put my life savings in a Rucka's Knuckas NFT. Do I now own a physical piece of Rucka? If so, what piece? We'll have to get back to you on that one.
Don't
Robin,
show it here.
yeah. Robin, the new member, says, do you think drinking, smoking, or taking drugs during pregnancy that harm child growth should or can be considered as child abuse if you carry the child to term?
I certainly think it's not ideal behavior.
Don't do it. Yeah.
I mean, but they certainly did it in the 50s and 60s and 40s. I mean, women smoked and drank all through their term. My mother might have done it, for Christ's sakes. I was born in 65. I don't know if she did, but I know that when she had me, she was, about a 2-pack of cigarette a day person. And, I think it's it's a series of unhealthy choices. Should it be considered child abuse? I don't know about that, but it certainly will have, it'll certainly have effects on the developing fetus that could, seriously impact it later on in life.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. So my first daughter was born very prematurely. I spent a lot of time in the NICU, which is where all the the premature babies are held, and a lot of them are there because their mother used drugs of various forms, and the babies are born addicted to whatever it is, heroin, cocaine, I don't know, and sometimes those drugs can cause also birth defects, which we saw a lot of, like, really horrible stuff. It's serious. It's serious, and
should somebody be charged with child abuse? Can you do something like that?
I don't.
Can you sue them? Can you sue your parents?
Yeah, I don't think so, but you can, like, I think it is within, like, the rights of, I don't know, that once the child is born and the doctors are like, hey, this baby is addicted to heroin, that you don't have a right to that baby any longer. Like, that is certainly reasonable.
Yeah, I think there's probably something that can be done legally once the child, I don't know, gets to the age of majority, or has can be legally independent, where they might be able to do something, take some legal action for negligence, misconduct, or something that has a lasting, provable, objective impact on their life. Maybe.
And it's a tough question is another like answer. Like maybe someone needs to sue their mother and see if it goes all the way up to the highest, most knowledgeable judges to interpret the laws and to figure that. I mean, legal philosophy is very complex. I know we kind of live in the internet has made it so we're all like children in a progressive kindergarten, you know, like we're all like, oh, what's your opinion? Everyone thinks like their opinion is perfectly valid. And everything's like a lot of people are very emotionally driven, but at the end of the day, it is worth remembering like legal philosophy is an enormous accomplishment in the context of history, as is philosophy in general. But like, yeah, like law and stuff. I'm just, you look at all the volumes and books that could just fill entire libraries that got us the world that we are lucky to be living in today. It's not always going to be easy. So I guess I would say take all of our opinions with a grain.
Well, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the job of lawyers and legal, like you said, legal scholars and people that invent the laws. Like, I have no idea what the possibilities even are. And like, you have to have a law that accounts for every possibility and every loophole and everything that could happen or should, or that did happen. It's complex. And those gray areas are like hard to sort out. And sometimes it's like more than one thing could be the right answer. Just like, so what's the age of like when you should be able to drink? It could be 18, it could be 19, it could be 21. Like there's often even choices within what the law even should be. So
well, and there in different parts of the world, those ages vary pretty widely. I think in Paris, from 14 to 16, a person can drink alcohol provided their parents are there with them at the table. I don't know, Charlie could tell me this if he's watching, but I think in Italy as well, they have fairly lax relationship with wine and their kids, and when they drink, that we as a sort of Puritan or originated nation have a very different relationship.
I was going to say, I've been a waitress in Wisconsin, so it's the same there. Like if you bring your kid in and buy them a drink, it's okay. It's like as long as they can reach the bar.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, much of Europe, much of the world is kind of like that. Like not only that parents need to be with kids, but like kids can just buy alcohol or cigarettes at virtually any age in much of the world. So even if they have laws, they're often not enforced.
Yeah. Anyways, the point is that these questions are complex, and that's somebody's whole job is to figure those things out. And oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that those people exist, because I have no idea how you would even start to approach that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got a couple more super chats. Marilyn says, I have benefited from the kind, helpful services at Planned Parenthood. I've never been pregnant, but I'm glad they're there. And Marilyn again says, yes, Amanda, take the child away from the mother.
I'm interested in knowing what she would think about the subsidized aspects of it. I mean, if you're paying for your own services and it's there, I think that's great. I think that it should be supported, though, by charitable contributions by people who are on that page in every respect, not by people who disagree morally with the premises of Planned Parenthood, which, as we all know now, Margaret Sanger was a bit of a racist and was interested in population control and directing these services at people that she thought were inferior.
Yeah, that makes it suck. Like that's another horrible thing. Planned Parenthood is like, it's the ray of light, like hopeful light for so many, kids that have gotten themselves into a really bad situation. And that is, I'm so grateful, like Mary Ellen is saying, that they exist for those, for those people to be able to have some place to go that understands what's happening to them and supports them. But then, that's all bundled with this, okay, but they're using tax money, and like, is that even something they should be doing? And then no, but since that whole scheme already exists, can we really tell them like, but no, you shouldn't take advantage of that? It's like that casts a pall over the whole good, like all the good things that they do for people, for women.
And also Planned Parenthood didn't invent the lobby system, right? They didn't invent the redistribution of wealth and all of that. So like, that's kind of on all of us in a sense. Like, we need to vote and agitate for a actual capitalist society in which everything will be privatized. And if you want to pay for someone else's abortion, you can, but nobody will use your money against your will to fund anything. we got some upcoming shows today. So many upcoming shows. Actually, no, there's only two, but just all right. At 7 p.m. UK time, it's Enjoy Parenting with Lisa Van Dam, Kyle Steele, and special guest George on single fatherhood. I think that might be Lisa Van Dam's final episode of Enjoy Parenting. So make sure you're there and super chat your serious gratitude for that. Then at 10 p.m. UK time, it's James Valiant, Robert Nasser, and Amy Nasser continuing their discussion on Leonard Peikoff's Keeping It Real. Today's topic is courage versus fear. And then for members, the Productivity Hub is coming back this Saturday at 4 p.m. UK time. Russian romantic music with Nicholas Kruzik is happening.
Nice. I've been to his he's a music meetup on Saturdays, and they're awesome. That guy, he knows a lot about music. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And by the way, Life on Earth is at 10 p.m. UK time. And Keeping It Real is tomorrow. Jesus Christ almighty. I don't even know what I'm reading here anymore. Then in the super chat, Marilyn says, agree, Mark, but considering all the government subsidies, Planned Parenthood is not the subsidy I'd go after first. Margaret Sanger did more good than harm.
Well,
right.
Look, I definitely think that women have biological realities that at one time really held them down, and in addition to our own culture. And now they are liberated from those realities, and it should be celebrated. And the fact that women can be in the workplace and excel and contribute all their great brain power to the progress of the world and to their own enjoyment, their own sensual enjoyment. It's a blessing, and it should be celebrated as a blessing. So I'll agree with you, Maria. Okay.
And Robert Nasser in the super chat says, today at 10 p.m. UK time, it's Joy, Sorrow, Love, Death, and the Infinite Now, Life on Earth with Robert and Amy. So that's today. And then tomorrow is the James Valiant discussion of Keeping It Real by Leonard Peikoff. So that's tomorrow. Hope that clears things up. And yeah, the early 20th century, like fascist was not a dirty word. The progressives, they wanted to engineer society, and a lot of them were real racist, and racism wasn't even that much of a dirty word back then. And I mean, so like, what if like an Austrian economist, hated blacks and thought capitalism was a good way to keep blacks out of prominence, let's say. Should we then reject capitalism or reject their economic contributions? I would ask rhetorically, like, at the end of the day, like, people in yesteryear invented things and developed things that were good, even if they were racist and bad people in other ways. That's maybe my answer to that. All right. On that.
Well, I definitely think we should view these characters in history from the context that they were alive in, for sure.
And in the super chat, Johnny with $10 says, pro-abortion is indeed pro-life. Thanks for the discussion. And thank you for that super chat. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Amanda and Mark. See you all back here tomorrow for the Daily Objective. It's Philosophy Friday tomorrow with me and Jason Rhines. And you'll never believe what's going to be discussed. Thank you and goodbye.